excited because we're kind of going back to a vintage format. When we started these events about 3 years ago, they weren't classes, they were true masterminds. And so we would come up with a topic, we would bring on an expert, and then we would bring on all our top producing partners to really like dig into the meat and potatoes and figure out what those best practices are. So I got even more excited when I saw our guest list today. We have some heavy hitters on the call. Thank you so much for being here. And we have an amazing guest expert. So we're really going to get to pick his brain. And you guys, we want this to be interactive. So feel free as we go to jump into the chat and give us questions that we can ask him, but I'll kind of guide us as we go. We've got Stevie D. His last name is crazy. I'm going to give it my best shot. D. Laveaga.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Overly impressed. Very good.
Basically like gave us like letter by letter so we could get through it.
Let me just be clear. It was way better than Jeffrey earlier, so that we're clear. Yes.
The sad thing is I practiced it for like 30 minutes and then I just totally got it wrong, which sucks.
I'm excited to have him. So Steve coaches top producing teams all over the country, you guys. His background is extensive. He's an expert in real estate in general, but he's also an expert with the best practices of top producers all over the country right now. So I'm so excited to have him. As we get started, Steve, can you just give us a background on you, your experience in the industry, and then what you do with R.I.S.E Consulting?
Sure. For context, I was at Fidelity National Financial, which is the parent company of Fidelity, Chicago, Ticor, Lawyers, et cetera, for 20 years, 19 and a half years. Love the company. I was our national sales manager and chief revenue officer for my last 7 years and traveled about 250 days a year. Again, loved it, but that has a life. And then in the end, had garnered enough opportunity and relationship. I wanted to start my own firm. I believe real estate is changing at the fastest pace it's ever changed. You've got almost $2 trillion invested in it. Started my own firm about 21 months ago and have been blessed to grow into one of the larger coaching and consulting firms in the space. We have 495 elite teams. We only work with the team concept because we service, last month, my network delivered 41,000 leads into our ecosystem. Those leads go to elite teams who we train on the data science and the algorithm of every major lead provider we partner with, and there are 9 of them. And those lead partners have figured out it's not more agents that mean more transactions get closed or a better consumer experience. It's the better the agent, the better number of leads are closed and a better consumer experience. So for context today, you guys, please ask any question you'd like. We mastermind every 2 weeks with localized entities. I'm in 23 markets. And on Monday, we had our national mastermind with over 480 attendees. And we went over some of the things we're going to talk about today. I will never give you a theory or, hey, try this, or I heard this worked. Nothing drives me nuts than listening to people that say they're coaches and haven't sold a home in 25 or 30 years. All I'm going to ever give you is what is documented in our best practices library of success that is working in 5 or more markets with 15 or more entities. So that way, you know, it's a proof of practice. So when you ask me a question, if I don't know, I'll say I have no idea. If I do know, I'll say this is what our elite teams are doing today in order to be successful. That's the very short version.
Love it. I'm excited. So let's just jump into it. So the hot topic right now, obviously, is low inventory. We're starting to see some of that open up, but I feel like there's been an inventory shortage just across the country. What has been working to create that with your top agents you're working with? And then as we shift, how do we keep it going?
What's important is you just outlined something, Scott, it's important. Sometimes as realtors, we only see what's right in front of us. The reality is the only thing you can guarantee in this space is change, and things change. So I heard people say, 2 months ago, again, not our clients, but some of our lower level agent networks, like, oh, I don't want any more buyers. You always want buyers and you always want sellers, regardless of market. Now you have an emphasis on where the market of the moment is, but you always want to be gathering people into that database, which is really a data bank of future buyers and sellers. So never, ever think of it as anything other than I'm going to keep acquiring client opportunities into my database/data bank so I can tag them as now, nurture, or future opportunities. But the more people I put in that world, the better. So a couple of contexts for inventory. You're right. As of the last 11 days, we have seen inventory increases and pending increases in 19 of our 23 markets. So that tells me now you've got some things loosening up. And just like everything in real estate, it's cyclical. Number two, please understand there is no big inventory save coming. We're not going to see a bunch of people in forbearance go into foreclosure. We're not going to see a bunch of people who all of a sudden can't pay their bills and flood the market with inventory. I do work with 6 large institutional funds, things like Invitation Homes, Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow. All of them bought the most homes they've bought the entire year in the month of May, and June will most likely be bigger. Okay, so please understand, when these groups start buying homes for cash and flip, they believe this market has a 2 or 3 year upside run rate. Okay, so there's no inventory flood coming. We're going to have to create our own inventory. I'll give you the number 1 tactic that our teams use across the US. And then Sky, I will give you a link to these exact letters, and these folks are welcome to use them. Okay, we have figured out quickly that seller endorsement is a big way to get other listings. And in the current market of the moment, we created a seller endorsement letter because almost 100 of our teams now are doing this on every listing where they want more listings. So Sky, you're going to be the consumer. We're going to role play. I come in, I'm fortunate enough to earn your listing. I say, Sky, listen, this is great and fantastic. I've learned this in this space. Sometimes your neighbors would like to pick their neighbors they bring in. And since you've been in this community 7 years, let's let everybody know that we're moving. We'll have a neighbors only little open house session Sunday from, or Saturday from 10 to noon. And we'll invite them in, but let's let them know that we're actually moving here and that you've enjoyed living here, et cetera. So here's a draft of a letter. And this letter, Sky, is going to come from you, the consumer, because 1, your neighbors will read that letter more often. And 2, that we want them to have the opportunity to pick their neighbor, pick their friend. They may have a family that wants to move in there. And I've already drafted the letter. The letter says basically, oh, I've really enjoyed living here. This is great. We're excited. We decided to move back from Seattle to Arizona, where it's sunny and a little less rain, but wanted to let everybody know how much we loved it here. We do have a neighbors only open house this Saturday from 10 to 12. Love to have you pop by. Thanks so much. That's it. There's no realtor promotion or anything. And then in this market, Sky, if you price the house right, how fast does it sell in your marketplace? Hours, right, Sky? Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's say it takes 3 days and it sells for 103% of asking price, which would be about 3% more than asking, which is about normal in most of our higher end markets, San Francisco, LA, et cetera. So then the second letter, which is already written, comes also from you, Sky, and it says, oh my gosh, we sold our home in 8 days at 103% of asking price. We had multiple buyers. I want to let you know, 1, our realtor, Steve D, did an amazing job. Here's his confirmation. Please call if you're interested. We also had multiple offers. So if you'd like a free, confidential, no obligation housing analysis, Steve said he'd be happy to do that for you. Thanks so much. Really enjoyed it. Okay. Now you've got 2 letters going to your 250 closest houses, which you can get from any of your title company partners. They all have farm lists that will give you the 250 homes most like that in the area. The letters coming from Sky, the owner. So everybody in that 250 farm gets 2 letters within 10 business days, one announcing they're moving and another one saying we sold for 103% of asking price in 7 days. What a great experience. Out of those, on every 100 that you send, you will get 2.7 requests for a live in-person, what we call CMA. We make a fancy word for it and call it confidential, free, no obligation housing analysis to know what your home's worth in this marketplace. Because remember, don't think like a realtor, think like a consumer. Most consumers don't know how good it is out there. They don't know how crazy it is. They've had that house for 12 years. They don't think, oh, I got to fix it up. No, you don't. Right now, the marketplace is at an all-time high. Okay. So now that's 2.7. So you send out 250, you're going to get 5.4. Our close ratio, when you get an in-person living room discussion on someone's home analysis, is north of 71%. So now you're talking about getting, 6 to 8-ish. You're talking about closing 70% of that. That's 2 to 4 listings. That's a standard across our network. Okay. The reality is when you do that, this allows you, this is the fastest, best way to generate more listings in a marketplace. Okay. It's easy when you go through the process. Now, here's the problem. Set it up as a process. Have your title company, as soon as you take a listing, have the letter ready. I'll send you the links, guys. You can just use the exact same letters. I've had people say, oh, I added this or that, and they get a different, lesser result. Again, it's not my letter. It's the letter that our largest teams in America have used in order to be successful. I would tell you this, take the exact letter. Short, sweet, to the point. Use words like free, confidential, no obligation, because those words are safer for the consumer to read and hear. And it comes from Sky, so it gets open, especially when they see the second one. Now, you can't do this in every market. Back in 08, 09, when it took 185 days to sell a house and you sold it for 91% of list price, it wouldn't be as good a message. But in this market of the moment, the message of the moment is, I can get you top dollar for your home in the shortest amount of time. Okay. And then we'll talk a little bit about your objections on that, which will be, well, gosh, I'd love to get that number, but I don't know, where am I going to go? Where do I move? All of you in your marketplace, if you're taking notes or listening, write down a company called Easy Knock. They're a preferred partner of R.I.S.E. Easy Knock. They actually will purchase the consumer's home, allow them to live in it for up to 3 years, which they'll never takes that long, but you can have them, they can rent it back. They don't have to move twice, don't have to change schools, don't have to put a sign in the yard. Now they can pull out their equity. They're no longer have a loan. So then Jeff can go out and get them a loan. Now they're not contingent on their next house, and they can take their time to find their next move. They generally buy 70% of the property, rent it back at market rent. And then once they find the house they want to move into, you as the agent get paid both, which is kind of nice. You then would say, great, now we're going to go ahead and sell the remainder of this property. They get the upside, 30%, and anything it goes above. So now our agents use it every time to combat objections, because the consumer's biggest objection is, man, if I sell this place, where do I go? And I can't get a house right away. I know how hard it is. Now you've got a way to de-escalate everybody. Say, we can have you stay in your own home. You can take some chips off the table. This gets your name out of a loan, so you're no longer contingent. Now we can go look for a property, which might take, as you know, 6 months, 9 months. Great thing is you're living in your house. You didn't move twice. You're not paying crazy rent somewhere, and you're not stressed. These are the tools our people are using to generate more listings. Easy Knock from that perspective, and then seller endorsement letters is the start of that. So those are our two largest pillars of opportunity for creating inventory. I will send you contact and details for both.
So the question
Holy
is,
crap, get that guy a mic for God's sakes and drop that thing, dude. I think it's over. We're gonna go home now. That was amazing.
So my
Go ahead,
question
Leanne.
on that is, what kind of percentage are they paying for the house? Because I mean,
Who's paying for the house?
Easy Knock, because you got people like Open Door and all these other ones coming in. What are they like price scale wise in comparison for what they'll
99%. They don't make any money on the house. It's not their model. Their model is the rent.
Okay.
And what they're seeing is people want to do. And let's be clear too, with all due respect, have you looked at what Zillow's bought lately? Have you looked in the last 30 days what they're paying for properties?
Yeah.
They're paying 101%, 103%. So's Open Door. See, they have to spend this money or they lose it. That's a public entity problem. If they're given money and they don't spend it, they don't get it the next year. What they are buying properties for today, as some of you know who have been in living rooms, if you've been in enough living rooms, that offer from Zillow, you're like, that's about what I could get for it, right? That's the truth, is where they're moving to. And I can tell you in 23 of my markets, they're in 21 of them. I've been shocked a little bit about what our institutions are paying for property that they think they can fix and flip, which tells me they've done their analysis and they believe this is still going to be going up, which is good for all of us, but also something to be aware of. In Vegas last month, the average is 5.6% of homes are bought by institutions. If you combine my marketplaces, which is basically that U in the US, Seattle, Portland, NorCal, Vegas, Denver, Texas, Florida, they bought 21% of every home that closed in Clark County, Nevada last month. Highest ever for an institution buying side. It's crazy. So keep that in mind. They're coming and they're not coming lightly.
Question for you. Are you going to be sharing some of that copyright for what to put in the mailers?
As I said to Skylar, I'm going to give you the actual letters. So I'll be giving you
Sweet.
a link. You can have the actual letter. I have some folks that always think they're wordsmiths. I'll just say this. We've tried it 10 different ways. Our agents have tried it 10 different ways. Less is more, right? Short and sweet. You just want people to look at it and read it. All you're trying to really say is, hey, this person said they're moving. 10 days later, they said they're moving and had a huge win. And I got more buyers that want to come in here. Would you like a free, confidential, no obligation housing update on your property? Love to help you. That's all we're trying to do in that time. That's why it has to go out fast. The key is to systematize it, right? As soon as you get the listing, letter goes out. As soon as you have an offer, contract accepted, letter goes out. So they get it within that 2-week, 3-week time frame. Anything longer than 6 weeks, it loses its luster because it's too long in between and consumers forget. Make sense?
Yep.
Good.
Does
Other
anyone else-
questions?
That open house, is that being held by the homeowner, or is that what the agent is being?
The agent just does this, right? It's really easy. The agent does the neighbors only open house from 10 to 12 and does an actual open house from 12:30 to 2:30,
Okay,
right? So you only advertise to the consumers 12:30 to 2:30 open house, but you advertise in your letter 10 to 12 to all the neighbors. Because one, they get to see you, meet you, you can build some rapport. And you know how consumers are. They'll walk in and they'll be like, oh, my backsplash is way better than theirs. Oh my gosh, my view, I get to see the dead. And you want that. Now you have some interaction. And then when your second letter goes out and they realize you had multiple offers, which you will if it's priced right in this market, now you have more buyers. You say, hey, listen, I've got a buyer here. If you want me to look at it, we can see what we can do. Now you start making them think. It still might take, we do all of our tracking on a 75-day run rate. So those close ratios are based on after day 75, we don't count it anymore, but those close ratios are within 75 days. So make sure all you're doing is now getting them to go, I might have an interest, but where do I go? Well, I've got a program called Easy Knock. Let me walk you into that, where you can stay in your house as long as you want while we look for your next dream home and take some of this equity off the table, which is now at an all-time high. See, we really become options dealers, don't we? We're not 3% realtors trying to get a commission. We're options dealer. What's the best option for you, Mr. Consumer? What's the best experience I can give you? Yes, you want some equity off, but you're afraid you don't know where to go. Let me give you some stop gaps there with my relationships with groups like Easy Knock, such that I can help you have a better experience while we transact with both selling your property and finding you a new one. That's what option dealing sounds like. And you also sound better and different than most people that go in that living room and try to pitch them on 3%. Other questions, Sky?
Sure. So I wanted to go back to something you mentioned about the data bank. I think, excuse me, anytime the market gets hot in the summer, we start to forget to get into that database and do those nurture calls and follow up with those people that are further out. And then when the market shifts, we didn't do all of our nurtures, so we have nothing and the faucet stops, right? Or it shuts off. So can you speak to what are the best tactics for nurturing the database even when things are busy?
I think this is important. First of all, if you have a database of any number, 200, 500, 1,000, some people will say 5,000, 10,000, attaboy, Leon, very good point here in our chat. Every single client in your database should be tagged a now business, which we define as 0 to 90 days, a nurture opportunity, 91 days to 12 months, and then future 12 months or more. So if you just sold somebody a house, you tag them as a future. If you just got somebody in a house as a buyer, you tag them as a future. When you talk to the seller at the neighbor's only open house, and they say, "No, we're waiting until our son graduates. He has to graduate in next June." Great, that's a nurture. You look like you make that part of the puzzle, right? Such that you can go ahead and have everybody tagged correctly. Secondly, the best CRM that you can use that integrates with everything that's least expensive is Follow Up Boss. Again, most of my 497 teams, Follow Up Boss is the CRM. It integrates with 197 different software. So everything you want to use, it's easy. And then they put YLOPO on top of it. YLOPO. YLOPO, I love it because it's privately held, so there's no agenda. 2, 100% of your advertising budget goes towards your ads. There's no arbitrage where they take money off the table. And 3, the integration is built directly into Follow Up Boss. So those 2 things give you what is the most integrated, most robust and most cost-effective CRM in the US if you're trying to generate leads and have systems, models, et cetera. But to not have every database, person database tag is important. I saw something in the chat that says $300,000 to $400,000 buyers are getting fatigued. They are. So I'll tell you what our agents do and our best practices for buyer fatigue. Number one, they say, listen, buyer, here's the reality of where we are. This could take 6-9 months, especially in Seattle, where you don't have a lot of inventory, right? So this is a job. This is a process. Give them the expectation. Don't act like there's going to be opportunities every week. There's not. Let them know that they've got to be aggressive. Get with a lender like Jeff that tells you, hey, they can go up to this. We can find ways that we can make an offer here and have room to go up and do more if we can. Number two, make sure that you call every agent that you put an offer in. I polled my top 55 listing agents 2 weeks ago and said, what percentage of agents call you on offers? It was less than 21%. How is that possible? How is it possible in this market? You submit an offer that you did not call your listing. And by the way, Jeff is your lender. I have 31 national lender partners. Part of our best practice is they call the listing agent on every loan that they create. Hi, listen, Sky, this is as good as cash, this deal. I've got this thing wired. These guys have room to go up. I want you to know, I guarantee a close date. Some of our lenders have gone to doing this. I guarantee a close date, or I pay $500 a day if we're late and it's our fault. No problem. This is as good as cash. Now you've created some rapport. Secondly, they'll also make sure that they ask the listing agent, when and where are you reviewing offers? Well, we're doing it on Sunday at 5 o'clock in the seller's house. I'll let you know how we did. You go, thank you so much. Then they have their buyer either do a video or a letter on their why this particular house was important. Oh my gosh, I've been in your house 3 times, Sky. I love what you did with the kitchen. It's so close to the school that my children want to go to. We are passionate about wanting to buy your property. We want to pay top dollar for it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's never longer than 90 seconds, preferably around the 60-second mark. And they submit that and let them know, hey, my client's committed. I had one agent say, yeah, I tell my, we don't need to see the house until we see if we get it. That doesn't work anywhere. That's quite frankly, a half-ass agent move. Be a business professional. Absolutely. And then thirdly, when they tell you where they're going to review offers, my agents do this on every offer that they know when and where they're reviewing it. They send Peter Jungle, spend $40, send a Peter Jungle Uber Eats to the house 15 minutes beforehand and say, hey, Sky, I know what it's like as an agent to review a bunch of offers, to go through with your seller. Just letting you know, I appreciate you. Let us know how we do when you guys go through your offers. Thanks so much. What you just did is put yourself top of mind. And remember, that agent's job is to eliminate 10, 15 of the offers to get down to 3 to 5. Well, when you send them something, some people have gone to cookies and cold milk. Some people have gone to send something that lets them know you're thinking of them. You know it's hard to take 2.5, 3 hours, explain all of this, have your seller ask questions they don't understand. So send something over there, because then at least you stay top of mind. What it does is generally guarantee you a second conversation. Hey, Sky, you weren't successful. The other offer was a little bit higher. Oh, a little bit or a lot? Because we can go up a little bit. I'd love to make a secondary offer. What are your thoughts? Now you're in a conversation. This is still a relationship business. This will always be a relationship business. Are you making it relational, or are you just like, oh, we missed out again? I made another offer and they just told me we missed out. You have to be doing things better and different. Videos. One of my agents, brilliant, did a video of their buyer. It was 2.5 minutes as to why they want to live in this particular area. Went on Facebook, created a custom group, sent that video to all 400 people that lived in that area. Got 3 folks that said they would entertain offers. Sold a property. Something was never listed, never on market. They saw the video of this person saying, I would love to pay top dollar for your property in this market. We really want to be here. Our kids, our family, our mother, all these things. People do business with people they like. Emotion creates transaction. If you're not making it relational and emotional at some level, you miss out. Hope that answers your question, Sky.
That was like 8 questions in one. So that's something we've been talking about, right? Is that level of professionalism. And we had another mastermind meeting where this topic came up, because when it's so easy to sell houses, like everybody's getting into real estate right now because they can sell it so quickly. And then when you have that, you do have to set yourself apart. But there's also that challenge of working with these agents who've only, have just joined because the market is good. So can you speak to what that class act, that level of professionalism, that level up looks like? What are those extra tips, like, the phone call, that's when you mentioned? What else around that?
The fastest growing trend in real estate is the elite team. It's very difficult, with all due respect, for a single agent to service a real estate consumer at the level they need to, because they end up being a jack of all trades and, quite frankly, a master of none. They work very hard, they engage the consumer, they get the consumer engaged, they get an offer in, then they get accepted, then they gotta kind of babysit the transaction through this, and they've got to be the person that does all of that. That's why on our lead flow, we don't work with single agents, because they can't take on lead flow and currently service and currently transaction manage and then go back out and prospect. It's a lot to ask one person to do. So we are seeing the largest ever flight to teams that I've ever seen. And I think it's if I was a single agent on this call, I would go figure out who are the best elite teams in your market and ask them, are they taking on people to be opportunistic? Because once you learn, that's how you run a business, not a practice, a business where you're in the business of real estate. The fastest growing, most profitable entities are running businesses. Buying agents, listing agents, transaction coordination, admin, marketing, database managers. All of these things are things that are happening at the fastest level I've ever seen it. Of our 495 teams, 300 of them have added database managers. Wasn't even a position 3 years ago people did, because now they work with multiple lead sources: Zillow, Realtor.com, Open Door, OfferPad, Ojo, Movoto. They all have different ways they want you to update what they're doing with it. And you can't ask agents to update 2 or 3 things. They can barely update one CRM. So now the database manager, who works from 9 p.m. virtual, usually in the Philippines or overseas, 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., the agent only has to update one thing: their follow-up boss CRM. So they go in there, talk to Sky today, set a second meeting, set a buyer consult, That database manager goes in and looks at the notes that were made each day, sees that Sky originated from Realtor.com, which wants to be updated in their mobile app. They take it, they copy that note, they log into the mobile app on behalf of the agent, paste the note in there and hit save. So now it's been updated such that Realtor.com is happy, or Zillow is happy, or Movoto is happy, and that the agent's done their job, right? So from our perspective, the things that are growing are running things more like businesses. You can absolutely outsource transaction management. There are some great virtual transaction management companies, and you should do that, because unless you're in this business for paperwork and that, if you're in it for that, then you should be a transaction coordinator. If you're not, go back into the business of people, prospecting, getting into your sphere of influence, engaging, because it's going to get much more difficult with all the money coming into this to be a single agent trying to do 7 things well at any given time. That's what we have, what I call the bipolar agent. Oh my gosh, I got to get deals in. Prospect, calls, engage. Oh, I got 2 deals in. Make sure the deal closes, babysit the deal, make sure it goes well, make sure it's okay, call title, call mortgage. Okay, good, they're closed. Oh my gosh, back into prospecting. And it's always doing this, right? My teams tend to do that because they're always adding more entities. So I would say from a professionalism standpoint, figure out a way you can engage some assistance for the administrative side, contract to close, such you can focus on the people and the business side.
I love that. So you're thinking go join a team, or if you want to create one, who is that first hire? What's the first thing you leverage after? Like I think a lot of people here already have transaction coordinating outsourced through their office or something like that. What's that next?
The assistant piece is great. There are a ton of great virtual assistants, right? And you can use, I've got 2 or 3 entities. If anybody'd like to, Sky, they hit you up, Sky, I'll send you over who we recommend to our people based on their success. But we got to give you some time back. So you're not, because here's the problem with us as agents. Our phone might ring 30, 40 times a day. How many times did it actually need you? How many times? Oh, hi, Sky. Yeah, I'm just calling. Is that listing still active in the MLS? Well, does it say active in the MLS? Yes. Then the answer is yes, right? So we always say admin first. Your first hire is admin, and you write down a list of things that have to get done, but don't have to get done by you. Update your seller weekly with everyone that walked through, and create a software. You can tell them what actually happened there. Handle calendaring. So you're not the one, oh, can we meet here or there or here? My admin handles calendaring, and you know this guy because you were trying to get me on this, and I don't do calendaring. I have an admin that handles it, and I don't get involved in it because if I do, I screw it up. Whereas Carolyn is looking at every minute of every day with the agenda, how it works, what it works. So I know if there's a problem, I go to one person and say, this didn't work, right? So then calendaring is another piece. And then it's things like check in with title, check in with Morgan, all the things that's got to get done that don't have to be you. And if there's a problem, real good or real bad, that gets escalated to you. I can tell you, I see agents spend time on email every day, diving into email is the worst communication there is, because if it's important and someone emails you and you don't get back to them within 2 or 3 hours, guess what they do? They text you, you don't get back to them, then they call you. When we sit there and go through email with things and become a professional deleter, deleting all the junk we get every day, get out of that. There's all kinds of inbox maintenance, and your admin can handle all of that. I don't tend to look at email because, again, it's not important. That can be handled by someone who understands the piece. If someone needs me, they know text, DM, or call. But if you're emailing me, expecting me to drop everything I'm doing, that's not going to happen, because I can't be everyone to everything and still do a good job running a business, right? So admin first. Don't hire. The temptation is to hire agents first because they're free. They come in, there's a split. You know what happens when you hire an agent without good admin yet? You become their assistant. Hey, Sky, got a minute? What does this mean? Hey, Sky, got a minute? What's this mean? You become their assistant. I always say this, I'm not Google. I don't want to be asked questions you can find on your own. And I make it very difficult. We've got 12 partners, 12 people I work with in my firm that work for me. And I always say the same thing. I'm not Google. So don't call me and go, what about this? Did you Google it? Did you ask 2 other resources before you got to me? When I ask that question, you know what happens generally? They figure it out, right? But instead, if we say, got a minute to death, then I'm not doing things like generating new lead sources for our ecosystem, hiring on new lender partners who want to then help us close and invest more money in lead gen, working with the biggest lead providers in America to get more leads from them. All of those things are important things that an owner of a business should do. Looking at my email and seeing the 70 spam things I got to get rid of by 250. I get 250 emails a day. At the end of the day, my admin has got 8 to 15 that need my attention. That's it. Admin first.
I think it's really easy to feel busy when you're just doing those tasks all day long, and then the day gets done and you did nothing that was the green time, which is the sales part of it. So I think that's really important.
I have a saying. Are you in busyness, BUSYNESS, or business? They're very different. Sound the same, very different. Because when you say what'd you accomplish today, anybody on this call that spent 45 minutes a morning for the next 10 mornings calling their past clients and saying, hey, listen, I wanted you to know this, hear it from me as I'm your real estate partner. Home values are up in this market, almost 36%, 12, 18-month run rate. I wanted you to know if you ever need a free, confidential, no obligation custom home analysis, I'm here for you. Okay, let me know. It's crazy how much it's gone. I wanted you to hear it from me. If you just made that call 45 minutes a day for 10 days, how many listings do you think you have? Everybody will say that's a great idea. You know what's funny? The best ones I work with do it, and they do it every day. Real estate is not difficult. It's just really hard. You know what to do, but you get interrupted, engaged, we're tired, we're working on our own, we're working all these hours. It's hard because you have to do the same thing every day, and then you might not see a result for a week or 2 weeks. Then all of a sudden, 5 weeks later, the thing you did 5 weeks ago yields you 2 listings. See, we pay it forward in real estate. That's why I love lead gen. People are like, oh, these leads suck. There's no lead that can possibly suck if you're talking to a consumer on the phone about real estate. Cannot. Might be a future, might be a maybe never, but it's a consumer engaged with you. The more people you add to your data bank, whatever way you can do that, the better it is for you and your business. That's what we should be focused on.
So let's talk about that for a second, because you mentioned some online lead sources, and that's what everyone comes to us with. Everybody wants to buy online leads, and they want to know what the best ones are. And we do get that a lot, like these leads suck and they jump ship. And I think, you know, depending on the marketplace, the Zillow leads are better or worse, so to speak, or maybe they convert better or worse, so to speak. So can you, I guess, speak to that, the online lead thing? We steer people away from it, honestly.
Well, that's a mistake, because you're steering people away from the largest invested lead source in America. You think online leads are getting less or more? The problem is they've been bastardized to the point that a lot of people are just got lead fatigue, I call it. So at R.I.S E, we only work with what I call open ecosystems. We don't work with Zillow. Zillow is not a technology company. They're a real estate company competing with everybody on this phone. We don't do that. We work with what I call open ecosystems and digital media companies. So take Realtor.com, where I'm the largest lead aggregator for their company in the United States, right? And our 495 teams are all on it. And we only do warm connections, no form fill, no Facebook lead. This is a consumer on the phone being connected live by their ISA to my consumer. And we teach them the data science, the algorithm, and the process in order to get that. Now, once we teach them that, it takes at least 60 to 90 days to get any kind of pipeline. So I liken it, if you guys on the phone have seen Shawshank Redemption, one of my favorite movies. Andrew Dufresne's poop pipe crawl from the prison to freedom, that 100 yards of crawling through the poop pipe, that's what online lead gen is like for your first 65 to 90 days. Because all these companies want to see if you're for real. Are you really going to do it? Just like you wouldn't give a brand new agent who joined your team your best sphere of influence leads. You'd make them work to see if they were going to be good at it. These companies all do the same thing. And once we teach that algorithm and that data science, then our agent goes, oh, I get it now. Now I'm starting to get listing leads. I just got my second buyer at over 500,000. I go, right, but you had 3 leases, a lot, a mobile home, closed already. So you showed them you were a converting partner. Now you moved into quality lead gen. Most agents never get past the first 60, 90 days. So what I tell people is, it'd be like, I used to have this, I've been in this space a long time. I closed over 10,000 short sales from the title side. I created this short sale escalation program for all of my top agents in Arizona, Nevada, across the US, Florida. And I used to have agents that say to me, Steve, I'm not doing that short sale REO stuff in 08, 09, when it was 52% of the market. I got news for you. You take out 52% of the market and say you're not doing it, you better be ungodly at the other 48%. My smart one said, I don't understand it. I want to learn it. How do I get good at it? How do I scale it? The best teams are always looking for another spoke of revenue. The ones that aren't growing, or what I call a fading winner, because they're going down a little bit every year in production and dollars, are the ones that go, that's not me. This is what I do, man. I only do this. I only do this. I only do this. Real estate's a omni-spoke business of revenue. You should have multiple spokes of revenue in the things that you do. Do you really think that referral partners through the internet are going to get smaller or bigger? Do you really think Amazon will not be in this space in 12 months and they'll not be sending leads to agents that are in their preferred network, just like Rocket Home, just like Rocket Mortgage? And as soon as Amazon gets in, Google gets in, then Facebook gets in, then Netflix gets in. And all these people are going to be sending leads out. And the agents that have learned how to be a quality referral partner, to update all the different systems, track it. Our program is called S2L for a reason, speed to lead. Consumer works with 71% of the time, the first agent that talks to them and builds some rapport. That's it. They don't try out 10 agents. First one that builds rapport, that's the one that gets the deal. We teach it. It's going to get bigger, not smaller. You can't run from a space that's going to be at least 50% of the market over the next 3 to 5 years.
That's kind of blowing my mind. Does anyone have a question? We have about 10 minutes here. If you want to open it up for just more questions on this, or
Leon had a good update. I have a rule with follow-up. Great point, Leon. The fortune in this business is in the follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up. Period. So if you don't have a system, it's a problem, right? Again, follow-up boss, 159 to 199, depending on how many seats you want. Wailopo, really good overlay. There's very few things you can build a $100,000 entrepreneurial business and pay as little as we have to pay for good tech in this space if you pay attention.
Steve, I have a couple questions for you. So I understand that it's all within the follow-up, and I have like a lot of people in the database, but I don't really have good regular trip, like people who aren't going to do anything for 2-3 years. Do you have like a good copyright of all the like content of, you know, how to keep them at least engaged, or do you have any thoughts on how to keep some of these guys who are just not really, you know, interested anytime soon?
Well, I think this is important for you, and I want to make sure, Peter, you're on the same page here. You got to find tech that gets people to go like this. Maybe, right? So when your database, what is your CRM that you use for your database?
Sierra.
Okay, that's not bad. The best way to get people to put their hand up a little on the listing side is a product called HomeBot, just like it sounds, Home B-O-T. It's not expensive. It's done really well, and they send out the information on your behalf. They build the content. They don't trust you to necessarily build the content, so they do it, and they do it very, very well. So if I was on this call and I wanted to use a better call to action for my database for listings, I would sign up for HomeBot. By the way, I don't know, Jeff, if you have it, but a lot of our lenders use HomeBot and they engage our agents in it. It goes out, it's got this little cool little ticker sign. It tells you how much money your home's up this month, this quarter, year over year. The open rate for HomeBot to the consumer in email is 67%. There's nothing. I could give my kids a check with money in it. They wouldn't open it 67% of the time. And HomeBot does. So I would use HomeBot with my database. Leon's on it.
Thank you.
That would be what I would say to you, right? And again, something like Follow Up Boss, find a mastermind, find a network. A lot of these guys share their data, and you can have generic stuff, or just go. Mike Ferry's got great scripts. Tom Ferry has superb scripts. Go pay a coach for a period of time and say, hey, I need to get my campaigns better, and they'll provide that to you as part of their coaching. Other questions?
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I want to go back to the personal videos that other agents have been sending out. I've noticed that there are some agents in my market that send out personal letters with the offers, and the red flag with that we've talked about this a couple times out of my own office, is that it could potentially violate fair housing laws. Is that something that you guys have come across?
No, that's what brokers say when they want you to just be like everybody else, right? You getting a letter written from a consumer. Now, if you say, oh, we're choosing this person because they're white, Anglo-Saxon, male, 42, then you have a problem, right? If you're choosing this person because whether it be letter or video that says, I've toured your house 3 times, it's perfect for our family, I'd like to pay top dollar, I am committed to it. We're not just making offers to make offers. Your house is the house we want. That's how I would play it. But we want to try to make sometimes excuses like, oh, I've had people say, can't do video, it could be fair housing. Well, I'm just telling you what the 495 biggest teams in America do. They also do escalation clauses in offers. When they really want an offer, they'll do $1,000 above highest and best. People say, oh, you shouldn't do that, you can't do that. I'm just telling you what the best people in America do, and they do it all the time. Now, someone says here, Oregon State going to ban letters. I'd like to see that in writing. I'd like to see the attorney do that. I'd like to see them actually, everybody talks about things that are going to happen. I'd like to see people when it actually happens. I can tell you in Arizona, people talk about it and then they say, yep, okay, yeah, let me see it. And then I don't see a law. So I just say this, be careful what we hear. If we look into it and it's illegal, then find another way to make sure the seller knows your buyer's committed. Find a way, right? Do a video, put it on social media, and then create a custom audience that says how your buyer wants to go. You can't get in trouble for that because that's a social media post. This person's saying, I want to pay $12 over somebody's house here. And if that person is in your custom group and they see it, great. So there's lots of ways to do it. All this is trying to be better and different. That's it, right?
Yeah,
Other
thank
questions?
you. I like that.
Absolutely.
The bottom line is that until it's banned, do it, is the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And again, I love things like coming soons they want to ban, and I get it. So use a product like Raven, which allows you to advertise things internally to agents that are in the Raven network or in your brokerage or in your team or in your national network. And Raven does it because it's an internal system, not viewed by the consumers. But trust me, when agents know that you've got something with 3 bedrooms and 2 baths coming on the market at 440, lots of times you can engage that person at a very early stage in the process and get a chance before that thing gets out there in the world and makes it difficult.
Hey, Steve, I wanted to talk to you, ask you to comment. We only got a few minutes left, but on database, I think that's huge. I was at a mastermind summit just a couple weeks ago, and someone was commenting on database, and that once you have a database of over 3,000 names in a database, you can actually generate about a 7% return on that database. 7% of those clients are going to continually generate business coming back to you each year. You can get to a point where you don't have to necessarily prospect for new business because your database is constantly generating new business for you. What does that look like from your top agents? Like, what are they doing in their current database outside of, like, you know, follow-up boss and things like that? Are they making phone calls? The big thing that came up too, that you mentioned too, which is blowing my mind, is the database manager person. Like, they're like, hire someone to run your database, and all they do all day long is call clients and do emails, and just they're interacted with the database over and over. And we're talking about, oh, I don't want to hire another $60,000 a year person. But then you look at generates, I got 6,000 names in my database, 7%, 420 loans a year just from that. Like, dude, I'll pay $100 grand for someone to just take care of my database and generate more leads like that. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I think this is important. A database manager in the Philippines is going to cost you about $800 a month, first thing. So, and by the way, they're amazing, fantastic. Number 2, every single one of my teams, the single biggest revenue source of their usually 8 to 12 spokes of revenue is always their sphere. Now, here's the problem with sphere with realtors. We like to make that the catch-all for everything that closes. Oh, I knew that person 7 years ago. I did that person's home 8 years ago, but you haven't talked to them in 6 years. You're going to say that's a sphere. So our agents have a primary and a secondary source, and you cannot get a commission check if you're an agent in their team unless you fill out both primary and secondary. Here's what I mean by that, Jeff. So I do a custom Facebook ad. I announce I have 2 listings in this marketplace. I take it to my custom group, which is all of my past clients in that area that I've sold something for, or a call to action for a free confidence and obligation listing opportunity. And I do a custom Facebook group to everybody I work with over the last 10 years. Now, I get 10 inquiries. I go see 6 of them, and then 2 sign up. Is that a sphere deal? Or did it come about because I did a Facebook ad, targeted them, retargeted them with YLOPO, and got those people to engage out? You see what I'm saying? They were a past client, but my ad and then retargeting of that ad that I spent money on is what got that person to go, well, shoot, I would like to know what that's like, right? So that you have to first have a primary, and you should have a secondary sourcing, and you can't let an agent get a commission until they put both in. This way you can track and know that. I think that database, I would be doing everything I did. Think of this sun behind me. The yellow thing is the CRM is your hub. All those little spokes are everybody I ever meet. I want to be putting them into the system, right? So I'd be worried about less about, oh, can I ever get to where I'm just doing database? I'd be worried about how many people a week can I actually get engaged with that I did not know beforehand. And then quit sending them pumpkin spice recipes and, you know, how to make a good cappuccino. You're in real estate. Send them real estate affiliated videos, real estate affiliated entities, content, HomeBot. The best video program in America, and you have to usually be big enough to do this, is a company called Viral, V-Y-R-A-L, Viral. It is without exception the best video. And that video goes to they make you shoot a video, they write copy, they edit, they send out, they track. They do all of those things. And by the way, that video is how you stay close to that database, because video makes people think we're in connection, right? They track who opened it, who watched it, who looked at it. My guess is most of us maybe do a bomb video, maybe do some FaceTime, but there's not a consistent video that goes out to 1,000 people every month regarding real estate and why you're the local neighborhood expert, why you're better than Zillow, Open Door, OfferPad. You know the walking trails. You know what schools matter. You know what view lines are better. You know what areas of town are safer. You know all of those things. The reality is we don't tell that story well enough. Now, the big ones that run businesses, they do. And that's why they have the success they're having. That's why they're growing at teams are growing at the fastest rate in terms of profit and volume than they've ever grown at in the history of real estate. Other questions? I know we're looking at time, so I'm just making sure we're about done. Sky?
I'm good. Now's your chance. Anybody, if you've got something you wanted to ask or run by him.
That was a lot of information. I could see, I'm just like, wow, Steve, amazing content, man. Thank you so much for your time today. Freaking
My pleasure, brother.
awesome.
All I want you guys to know is it's out there. Seek. People want to share. Seek an open ecosystem. I'm so proud of what Jeff and Sky are doing, because real estate gets too siloed, and then we all get in our own lane and we just worry about what we think we know. I learned this: the more I know, the more I know I need to know. I don't know squat, and I love that we keep adding our teams and we learn something. So find an entity to bolt on to that will share what's actually working, best in class right now, market of the moment strategies. Okay, it matters. And remember, be in the room that you're the dumbest and worth the least. That's the right play. If you're the smartest and making the most money, get out of that room. You're in the wrong room. Go find some people who are better, bigger, smarter, doing it better. That's the key. Thank you guys for your time. I really enjoyed being here. Thank you all.